Hello dolls, and welcome to this very special first day of Vlogmas. For this year's Vlogmas, I want to do something special, and that is why every single day from December 1st to December 24th or 25th, I will break down a year from 1960 to 1979. Every video is going to follow the same structure. I'm going to start by giving you a little overview, and then starting by quickly telling you the most important things that happened in politics that year. Then we're going to talk about economics and some other happenings. Here I want to compare the price of the same three items from 1960 to 1979 to kind of give you an idea how much the money was worth. The happenings can kind of include everything from the first man in space to Marilyn Monroe singing for JFK. This can be everything that I kind of felt like an important pop cultural moment of the year. And then we're going to dive into the three main topics. I'm going to start with fashion, where I'm mainly going to focus on women's fashion, but also definitely tell you a little about men's fashion in every single year. Then we're going to talk about the wonderful music, and I'm going to finish off every video by telling you about the films of the year. I am so excited to finally bring you this. This was a lot of work, and I really hope that this comes together the way that I imagined it and that you are gonna adore it as much as I do. Also, just to quickly preface this, I'm mainly gonna focus on America and Great Britain in these videos, just because I cannot cover everything, and that just kind of goes for the whole video. Whenever I do explaining videos, someone comments, what about this, what about that? And I get it, I fully get it. There is so much to cover, but I kind of have to draw the line somewhere. So if there's anything that you felt like was important to add to the video, just leave a comment down below. I would love for you to share all your knowledge. So I feel like that is it. I am ready in my 1960s inspired outfit, and not 1960s as in the entire decade, 1960 as in the single year 1960. And I think I'm ready to start telling you all about the year that started the decade of revolution. Here is the year 1960. 1960 was a year of change, charm, and cultural firsts, marking the dawn of a new decade filled with both optimism and tensions. The world was standing at a crossroads, poised between the lingering traditions of the post-war 1950s and the bold revolutionary energy that would define the 1960s. In politics, fresh faces and fiery debates challenged the status quo, while on the streets, movements for justice and equality began to reshape society. In culture, a youthful spirit was emerging, breaking away from the conservatism of the past. Fashion saw a transition from structured elegance to relaxed experimental styles. Music was electrifying as icons returned to the stage and new genres emerged, bringing people together across generations. Film was pushing boundaries, with directors experimenting with daring themes and visuals that captivated audiences worldwide. This was the year of beginnings, when old worlds collided with new visions, setting the stage for a decade that would change everything. So let's dive into the defining moments and cultural shifts that made 1960 such an unforgettable year. Politically, 1960s was a full-on game changer. In the United States, John F. Kennedy faced off against Richard Nixon in the first ever televised TV debate. This was one of the most memorable presidential elections ever, and it shaped how elections would be run in the US from then on. John F. Kennedy's youthful charisma on screen won over viewers, while Richard Nixon, looking pale and tired, didn't have the same presence. This was a turning point in how media influenced politics. Kennedy won by a razor-thin margin, becoming the youngest elected president, and ushering in what many called the Camelot era. This also made Jackie Kennedy the First Lady of the United States, which would influence fashion greatly, but more on that later. Meanwhile, the civil rights movement was gaining serious momentum. In February, 4 African-American college students staged a sit-in at a segregated Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. Their peaceful protest sparked a wave of sit-ins across the South, with thousands of students joining in. It was a pivotal moment, showing how nonviolent resistance could galvanize change. Globally, tensions were high. The Cold War was in full swing, and the US and Soviet Union were locked in a battle for dominance. Not just militarily, but also in space. In 1960, both nations were testing rockets and satellites, setting the stage for the famous space race of the 1960s. Over in Cuba, Fidel Castro aligned with the Soviet Union, making Cuba a communist state. This was a major headache for the US, especially with Cuba being so close. Now let's talk money. The 1960s economy was stable for many people, especially in the US, but it wasn't without its challenges. I've decided to draw out the price development in the US by comparing the same 3 products, as well as the average yearly income in every video. The 3 items are a movie ticket, a loaf of bread, and a new house. A loaf of bread was just 20 cents. A movie ticket would have set you back about 69 cents, and the average new home cost around $12,700. The average income per year was somewhere around $5,315. But with that, you have to keep in mind that this was back when most households were a single income household, with most women not working outside of the house yet. In the UK, the post-war economic boom was in full swing. People were spending on new appliances, cars, and fashion. But beneath the surface, the seeds of economic inequality were being planted. And some industries were starting to feel the strain of the global competition. Fashion in 1960 reflected a world in transition. On one hand, you had the elegance of the late 1950s still dominating the mainstream. Jackie Kennedy, for example, was already a style icon before becoming First Lady. Her pillbox hats, pearls, and tailored suits became the definition of polished chic. But in London, a new movement was starting to bubble up. Early mod culture was taking shape, with young people embracing sharper, more modern styles. Think slim suits, skinny ties, and streamlined dresses. One of the most exciting developments in fashion was the rise of ready-to-wear clothing. While many women still sewed their own clothes, it was becoming easier to buy affordable, fashionable dresses off the rack. This opened the door for more people to follow trends without breaking the bank. Fashion in the 1960s was in a state of transition, bridging the conservative 50s and the youth-oriented swinging 1960s. For women, the full-skirted swing dress remained a wardrobe favorite, though pencil-shaped dresses were gaining popularity, especially as hemlines began to inch upward. Casual wear, however, revealed a youthful, fresh silhouette, with gloves, bouffant hair, and red lipstick perfecting the look. More women were starting to embrace pants in public, sporting shorts and capris in the summer, and opting for coordinated loose tops or button-down blouses inspired by menswear. This is kind of what I'm wearing today. The loose, oversized blouses, they often had a collar like this, which was definitely a lot more rounded than the deeper V-necks you would see later. I really like this look. It is very boxy, very straight cut. Some people would tuck this into their full skirts. Some people would wear it classically over pencil skirts. That's kind of the direction that I went with this style. But these kind of blouses were a symbol for the changing fashion in 1960. One notable trend was matching couples' outfits, where pairs would coordinate their looks. Evening wear, however, was still all about Hollywood glamour. Marilyn Monroe was a fashion icon in her own right, often seen in glittering gowns that inspired women everywhere. These styles brought an air of sophistication, with many women choosing all-black ensembles for a sleek, modern look. Ball gowns and party dresses remained elegant, often featuring layers of lace. When creating a 1960s-inspired look today, a mix of late 50s and early 60s clothing captured the essence of the era perfectly. For men, the shift towards more youthful styles was happening even more rapidly. The traditional gray three-piece suit was largely replaced by bold plaid or chic sports coats, colorful vests, skinny ties, and a notable absence of hats. Sweaters also made a comeback, particularly among Ivy League college boys, whose casual yet polished style gained popularity throughout the early 1960s. Pork pie hats and houndstooth sports coats added flair, while skinny ties brought a modern, streamlined touch to the outfits. Casual options like the Harrington jacket and basket weave loafers reflected a relaxed yet sophisticated style that defined 1960s men's fashion. For older men, casual fashion took inspiration from golf attire, button-down or polo shirts, flat front, colorful trousers, and slip-on shoes. Blue jeans were worn but retained their rugged Western connotation, as they were yet to break into mainstream fashion. The men's wardrobe of 1960 reflected a clear shift towards individuality and relaxed sophistication, setting the tone for what was to come. Now on to the music. The soundtrack of 1960 was nothing short of unforgettable, setting the tone for the decade ahead. Elvis Presley made his triumphant return from military service, proving that his reign as the king of rock and roll was far from over. His sultry hit, It's Now or Never, a romantic ballad inspired by the Italian classic O Sole Mio, dominated the charts and showcased his versatility as a vocalist. Elvis' return wasn't just about music, it was a cultural moment, rekindling the excitement and energy that he had brought to rock and roll in the 1950s. Meanwhile, on dance floors across America, a brand new craze was taking hold: the twist. Chubby Checker's cover of the song made twisting a nationwide obsession. It was easy to do, fun, and a perfect fit for the burgeoning youth culture. The twist wasn't just a dance, it was a social phenomenon symbolizing the growing independence and carefree spirit of teenagers who were beginning to define the era. Across the Atlantic, the UK music scene was building momentum. Cliff Richard and the Shadows dominated the charts, bringing a homegrown rock and roll flavor that resonated with British audiences. Their success helped lay the groundwork for what would soon become the British invasion, as UK artists prepared to take on the world by storm. While rock and roll continued to electrify audiences, softer, heartfelt sounds were also thriving. The rich emotional ballads of artists like Roy Orbison and the Everly Brothers struck a chord, blending doo-wop influences with powerful storytelling. Roy Orbison's soaring vocals in hits like Only the Lonely conveyed a depth of feeling that set him apart, while the Everly Brothers' harmonies in tracks like Kathy's Clown captured the bittersweet emotions of love and heartbreak. Brenda Lee, with her powerhouse voice and hits like I'm Sorry, became one of the most beloved pop and country crossover stars of the year 1960, earning her nickname Little Miss Dynamite for her big impact on the music scene, despite her small stature. Music in 1960 was a melting pot of styles. Rock, pop, doo-wop, and crooner ballads all coexisted, reflecting the diverse taste of the time. Whether you were twisting the night away or swaying to a heartfelt tune, 1960s music laid the foundation of the cultural revolutions that would define the rest of the decade. Film in 1960 was truly groundbreaking, with major shifts in storytelling, genre, and style. One of the most shocking and influential films of the year was Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Released in June, Psycho pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in mainstream cinema. The infamous shower scene, which remains one of the most iconic moments in film history, left audiences horrified and captivated, completely transforming the horror genre. Hitchcock's use of suspense, psychological tensions, and bold narrative choices set a new standard for thrillers and slasher films, making Psycho a cultural milestone that continues to influence filmmakers today. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, Billy Wilder's The Apartment became a huge success, blending humor and heart with serious, thought-provoking themes. The film's portrayal of loneliness, office politics, and personal ambition struck a chord with audiences, earning it critical acclaim. The Apartment won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and its thoughtful exploration of human relationships paired with brilliant performances by Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine made it a classic of American cinema. And let's not forget European cinema. Over in France, Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless marked a major turning point for European cinema. As one of the key films of the French New Wave, Breathless broke away from traditional filmmaking conventions, utilizing unconventional editing techniques, jump cuts, and a raw, unpolished visual style that was completely new at the time. Godard's rebellious approach to storytelling and filmmaking redefined what cinema could be, making Breathless not just a critical success, but a huge influence on filmmakers across the globe. The film's energy and defiance of established norms made it a landmark in the history of cinema. So what does it all add up to? 1960 was a fascinating mix of old and new, where the elegance and traditions of the past met the beginning of something revolutionary. The political landscape was shifting, with fresh faces and new ideas emerging on the global stage, signaling a turning point in history. In fashion, we saw the tail end of the 1950s refined femininity and the first stirrings of the bold, youthful styles that would dominate the coming years. Musically, the charts were alive with rock and roll, doo-wop and ballads. But there was also an undercurrent of change as artists began to experiment and push boundaries. In film, we saw the start of groundbreaking shifts, from Hitchcock's psychological thrillers to the French New Wave's radical storytelling techniques. 1960 wasn't just a year, it was a moment that laid the foundation for the wild, transformative decade that would follow, paving the way for the cultural revolutions, social moments, and the artistic innovations that would shape the 1960s. Tomorrow we'll dive into 1961, a year of space race, shifting fashion trends, and cultural breakthroughs. So that is it for the year 1960. I really hope you enjoyed it. And of course, my Vlogmas video wouldn't be completed without a tea. So if this is your first year watching my Vlogmas, every year I get an advent calendar where every day I get a new cup of tea. And today's flavor is winter pumpkin spice, which I have to say isn't quite Christmassy to me. That's definitely a fall drink, but I'm gonna give it a try anyway. I put it in my Santa mug to hopefully up the Christmas flair. It's not bad, it just tastes a lot more like fall than what I would love in early December. So now you know that if you stay a little longer, at the end of every video, I'm gonna review a cup of tea for you. I love when you dolls join in, so if you have a tea advent calendar or you just like to have a cup of tea every day, you might want to do that while watching my video. That is it for the year 1960. As said, I'll be back with the year 1961 tomorrow, same time, same place. If you enjoyed the video, I would love you to give it a thumbs up and maybe even share it with a friend. It supports me, it supports the channel, and it would truly mean the world. Make sure to subscribe to not miss out on the year 1961, 62, and all the wonderful years to come. I'm also going to take a break every 5 years and bring you a classic vlog. These are probably going to be a little longer as I'm only doing a couple this year, but I would love for you to watch these too. I hope you have a beautiful day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine and hopefully the snow. Take yourself some time to focus on you and your mental health today, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye, dolls.
When she comes in the dead of the night to my window, riding a frog that she keeps